Hall. Yes, it's pretty exciting. I'm Kendall Molam. I'm a member of the steering committee of Indivisible Chico. So Indivisible Chico and our many partners have been working on this event for over 2 months. And this started when it became clear that we would not get an audience with our District 1 congressman. Although he was sighted very nearby last weekend at both a parade in Gridley and the Silver Dollar Fair. And we sent him a very lovely and welcoming invitation weeks ago. And this is posted on our socials. I think we have some printouts on some of our tables as well if you want to see that. So I just want to give thanks to our team and partners just sponsoring this event, our Indivisible Chico, the Chico Peace Alliance, the Democratic Action Club of Chico, and the Chico and Oroville Area Resistance. And of course, you've also seen local partners in the hallway with the tables, and we hope you've had a chance to visit them. So this is a huge part of what Indivisible Chico is helping to create and believes in. A strong coalition of organizations and individuals that build collective political muscle in every corner of our region. We're here to show strength to those who would otherwise sit idle or are actively working to undermine democracy. Indivisible Chico started just 10 weeks ago, and I know many of us are surprised at that all the time, and has led or co-sponsored dozens of local well-attended activities, demonstrations, meetings, things of all sorts. Your Chico Indivisible chapter offers a big tent, many collaborations, support from a strong national Indivisible presence, which helps us to draw large attendance and more media coverage than we might otherwise. Indivisible National also provides a foundation that offers us locally strategic guidance and organizing structure to get chapters like ours up and running fast and strong. We are Indivisible Chico is a nonpartisan group and committed to peaceful, nonviolent activities. Thank you. We discuss and work for issues that bind us together. Expect all kinds of activities from Indivisible Chico, like arts, actions, book readings, demonstrations, of course, on many issues that affect us all. So find your people, join us for activities that you all can be proud to be part of. So just quickly, what's upcoming for Indivisible Chico? Always check our webpage and our social media often for information on them. That's if you're not already on our mailing list, where you would get our weekly newsletter, which would alert you to those things. And upcoming next is this Sunday, June 1st, our general membership meeting is at the Chico Women's Club from 5:30 to 7. And then look for details about our June 14th No Kings Flag Day celebration and demonstration. That sounds like it'll be a good turnout. We'll be ready. We have a full program today filled mainly with you bringing questions to a panel of accomplished local representatives. To this end, I'm honored to introduce Deborah Lucero as our MC. Deborah is Deborah is an esteemed, long-standing community advocate in her work as the former Chief Administrative Officer for Plymouth County, former Supervisor of Butte County, and an ongoing advocate for Chico arts, education, and culture. So let's hear it for Deborah Lucero.
All right. Is that it? Yep, there we go. Well, first thing I want to do is make sure our speakers come up so that they can sit down and relax and have water, and we can be gracious to them. So please come on up, speakers, and give them a round of applause while they're coming up. All right. This is going to be good. So, hello, District 1, and this guy. Yeah, this guy. Okay. And hello, Butte County, and then hello, Chico. A special shout out to Chico. I missed you all. I missed Chico. So it's unfortunate that our congressional representatives' chair sits empty tonight, but it's not expected, is it? Empty chairs are happening throughout the country. Republican representatives are not showing up to practice democracy. Why? Because they're shutting down basic tenets of our republic. They're writing a new script, one that shreds the safety net that has been carefully woven over the last 80 years, both at home and abroad. I've been thinking about a bit of wisdom or action to pass along as we struggle day to day to just keep up with the onslaught of DOGE activities or some new wound that the Trump administration inflicted as we slept. It's tough. I thought, well, okay, what about tiny banned book libraries that could pop up all over District 1, similar to the ones that opened in Nazi-occupied Europe during World War II? Those libraries featured books that were burned under the Hitler regime. That evil tyrant attacked science, education, the arts, culture, and anyone who was other. It's all too familiar, and yet, here we are, being mocked for making comparisons with such a monster. It's overwhelming. I know. It's unbelievable. The actions we see today are replicated in the tender underbelly of America, an underbelly that has been simmering with perceived discontent for decades, one that puts some Americans above others, an underbelly that makes a monster out of those who are seen as other, an underbelly that must cheat in order to win in politics, and attack that which it does not understand, and create hate to assist in an agenda that opposes the weak, the sick, the educated, the woke, or anyone that is not like them. Some are clothed in gold and silver and crosses and implements of religion, but we all know it's not true spirituality. How can it be without love for one another, for strangers, for the weak or struggling? Love is something you see and experience. It's not something conjured up out of fear. The enemy has been birthed from perceived insecurity, fed by carefully orchestrated propaganda for 20 years. Let's face it, America has been on an IV drip of Fox News for 2 decades, and the damage is more than apparent. Fear is the drug of the enemy, and because people are fearful, they're willing to give up their freedoms, willing to give up the things that our forefathers and our foremothers fought and died for. Those of us in my generation did not do enough to raise up the next generation as to the importance of democracy. And like any art or craft or skill, democracy is a practice. You practice it when you vote, when you learn about issues, when you debate others with words and knowledge. It happens every time you read about an initiative or new law. It is an individual's responsibility, but we've allowed others to take it on, to dismiss our own responsibility to learn. Having now been on all sides of government, from adjacent nonprofit work for 2 decades to an administrative officer of a county for 2 years, and one 4-year term as a supervisor in Butte County, I've seen just how important it is to remain balanced, to try to meet people where they are, to listen to their perspective, their experiences, and learn how those experiences shape their perceptions, their actions, and their beliefs. Democracy truly is a practice, and as with any discipline, it's one that we must study. I was thrilled to see Harvard offering 4 free government courses online to U.S. citizens. Isn't that kind of awesome? Yeah? Free courses like American government, U.S. public policy, citizen politics in America, and U.S. political institutions. This is all well and good and needed, but knowledge is like a tree. It takes a while to grow and to take root and to begin to make shade. It's us, you and me, that must now prepare the soil, plant the trees, and nurture their growth. We need the shade. On November 4th, 2008, there was an election of a lifetime. There was a possibility that an African-American man would be elected president. Unbelievable. I was in San Francisco that day, waiting for my son to get out of jail. He had been picked up on Halloween night, and as a mother, I had to choose to either bail him out or get him a damn good attorney. I couldn't afford both. He had never been in trouble with the law, but he was 18, going to art school in the big city and living for the first time on his own. Unfortunately, he made a costly mistake. It involved a lot of sake, and spent 5 days in San Francisco's notorious jail. He calls it 5 days forever, and it's his story to tell. But I bring this up because he had turned 18 that year, and he got out of jail on November 4th, 2008, Election Day. I didn't want him to miss the opportunity to cast a vote in this historic election. I didn't know who he would vote for, but I wanted to give him the opportunity. I knew he thought I was crazy. He just wanted to get back to his sister's flat, have a meal and rest, but we stopped at his precinct so he could vote. It was important to me because I was looking at his 18 years and imagining him at 35. I didn't want him to have regrets. He practiced democracy that day. I had hoped he would come to understand how important a single vote was. I lost my primary election in 2022 by 74 votes. So I know that every vote does count. In the most recent presidential election, my son, who turned 35 this year, voted for Trump. This hurt on many levels. It felt like a stab in the heart to my Latino grandfather who experienced intense racism in Northern California, and my father who felt it a little less, but was still scarred, and me who felt it less than many of Latino descent in this area. My parents were married at a time when their union was still considered a mixed marriage. And we've come a long way. But that underbelly of America has always been tender and unsettled, and is ready to turn to any leader who can scratch that itch. Tonight we will hear from fabulous female leaders who are currently in office at the local level. And so, without further ado, what I'd like to do is introduce our first speaker. After a long career as a classroom teacher, Gail Olson is continuing to serve as a member of the Chico Unified School District Board. And if anybody ever watches school district meetings, you got to give her a warm welcome.
I appreciate that so much. So as was said, I just recently was elected to the board in December after retiring from 34 years of special education, and it's been a wonderful experience. I'm so glad I did it. I said the other day at another function, I never in my wildest dreams would I even think I'd be up here, but look at where I am. And one of the best decisions that I've ever made. So what I would like to do tonight is just, first off, share some factual information. I might put in some, adjectives and adverbs in there. So I need to clarify that I'm not representing the school board. I'm not representing the district, unless it's factual information, right? So one thing that I was pondering was in looking at this, he's lost a lot of weight, it looks like. Anyway, in looking at this, the first thing that comes to mind, obviously, is federal funding in the schools. And so I reached out to the district And I'd like to just share with you some information regarding the data, the funding, and the facts on that. Pardon me while I get my readers on. Federal funding in Chico Unified is around 6.2%, which is around annually $7.7 million. Special education is approximately $3.3 million. Title I, which is for some of the most vulnerable students, to help support them and their needs, is about $4.35 million. Funds that are used for working on student achievement and outcomes, $700,000. Title III immigrant, and it's called LEP, Limited English Proficiency, is about $200,000. So it's a longer list here, but you can only imagine that if $7.7 potentially $1 million is taken away from our budget, that money has to come from somewhere. We have to continue to provide service to those students. Again, I want to stress the most needy, vulnerable students. And as a special educator, I will attest to that. I see, in my opinion, that that is kind of the plan to take away services from the most needy and the most deserving. In addition to that, I did find through the National Education Association, Doug LaMalfa's District 1, right? Congressional District 1. And this puts it in, this is the whole district for just some funding for Title I, for example, which is the most needy academic, meet the needs of the kids in their bellies, $59 million. In District 1. $67.7 million is specifically for school meals. And we know, well, I know that many students come to school hungry. And maybe that's the only meal they're going to get is their breakfast and their lunch at school. $2.3 million for supporting students in academic enrichment. $568,000, which may not sound a lot, but this is just for rural schools that are highly under attack. So obviously, there's a lot of money that could go away federally that's going to negatively impact all districts. Another area that I believe is an area to address is students having a safe place to learn. This includes students who identify as LGBTQ. This includes students with both legal immigration status under the Constitution and those who may not have legal status. Those students should never have to worry about coming to school and wondering, am I next? Or wondering if their parents are going to be home when they get home. Again, a very vulnerable population. I said this earlier to someone when I taught a special ed world history, and we were talking about lords and manors, and I said, well, back then, you were born a serf, you lived a serf, and you died a serf. And I truly believe that that's kind of a direction we're heading, so that we're not able to educate our students to be able to achieve and go above and beyond. So how can you help? This will be my last thing. How can you help? Well, look at the board agenda. It's on the website, typically the Friday before a board meeting. And if you notice that there's a hot topic on there, I guarantee the other side is going to show up. And we need this side to show up as well and to represent. Reach out to any board member. You can find our email on the website, the Chico Unified website. Email us with any questions or concerns or ideas that you might have. Continue to participate in peaceful protests that are going on everywhere. And just keep reaching out. Oh, and as I mentioned this the other day, please tell 10 friends. We have another board vote coming up next year, 2026. Please stay in touch with that. Please stay in tune with that and tell 10 friends to get involved and have them tell 10 friends as well. And additionally, try to tell 10 friends that, when I look out over the group here, no offense, I mean, we've earned it, but everybody seems to be 40 and above. It would be nice to tell 10 friends who might tell 10 friends who are 39 and below, right? To come and, thank you. To come and stay involved, right? And if you have any questions, again, I'll be available after, and you can also email me, all right? Thank you.
Decisions that are being made very publicly affect every aspect of our lives, and many times we just don't know it. Next up is Katie Hawley, who is the youngest and one of the newest members of the Chico City Council, and I bet she has a lot of friends 39 and under. All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you I haven't met yet, my name is Katie Hawley. I represent District 5 of Chico City Council. If you're unfamiliar with the districts, because we've redistricted 2 years ago, and it's a pretty confusing thing. District 5 consists of the core of Chico, so our downtown South Campus, Mansion Park, Nord Avenue, Chico State, Chico High School. So I would say it's about time we have someone who does represent that demographic elected to City Council, so that's exciting. I came to Chico State to study, like most people do, fell in love with it. I never want to leave because it's so amazing. During my master's program, I am finishing up my master's in political science at the moment. I was working at a nonprofit called Butte Environmental Council, which is a slippery slope that leads into the political spectrum pretty quickly. Yeah, environmentalism, you can't be an environmentalist without being political about it, I'm sorry to say. But that introduced me to someone who's now my colleague, Addison Winslow. I think it's a really, really important thing when other people do brave things. You have to remember that decreases the perceived risk for everyone who sees it happening. I never would be in this position if it wasn't for him setting the stage and opening up that door for me. And I want to remind you all of that in the months and years ahead. It's going to be a tough time, but I think when other people's activism is elevated, it empowers other people to match that as well. So David asked me to talk a little bit about how the city and our municipalities in the region are going to be affected by what's happening on a federal level right now. I want to say right off the bat, it's going to be really hard to predict. We have economists that can say, yeah, this may or may not happen. We'll give it a 50% chance that it will or will not. But even at Finance Committee meeting, which I was at this morning, our department head of engineering was explaining to us that our development impact fees only accommodate for about 20% of our actual road infrastructure coverage. The rest of it is coming either from Measure H or it's coming from grant funds. This is not only on a state level, which is also going to be affected by federal cuts that the state is able to allocate, but that's also coming from a federal level. So across the board, I think we're going to have to be really, really strategic about how we use our city dollars, not just Chico, but the county, our region, and beyond. I think one of the ways we can feel empowered to do that is by fighting the privatization of our public services. One example of that is being heavily dependent on companies like PG&E. Having an investor-owned utility to be dependent on as a public entity, I think, is wrong. And no, it doesn't matter who's in power. That's in my opinion, something that we should take steps to come out of that. One of the first steps we made as a city council, I think it was my second meeting, was moving forward with community choice aggregation. So we are starting to slowly publicize that private utility. That's one of the main steps that we can take. The city has already been feeling it. Our last couple of budget meetings, I found out the only position that the city will be losing, as revenues are currently flat, is a state grant-funded position. Unfortunately, this position is our urban forest watering and caretaking position. And that hurts. I'm going to try to fight for it at City Council. I'm also going to try to fight for having Engine 1 staffed, which previous to the recession of 2008, we did have more fire staffing, but that was another grant fund. I think it was called the SAFE grant that we lost back in 2010, maybe after the recession. So it's going to be creativity, and we're going to have to be really particular about how we use our dollars. I think it's even more important in Butte County because we have some of the highest rates of adverse childhood experiences in the entire state. We have some of the most climate refugees in the entire nation. When I say climate refugees, that means people who are displaced because of fire, people who are displaced because of flooding. People typically don't label that as a refugee, but we are, and we need to recognize that has needs that come with it. We also have high rates of poverty. A lot of people who are reliant on Medicaid, Medi-Cal, Section 8 housing. It's our time now to step up and support the people who need it most if our federal government won't. It's not always possible when we're facing the realities of economic depressions and economic recessions along with people who are needier than us. But there's nothing stronger than community. And the really, really cool thing about Chico is that we have that community. I think one of my favorite things throughout the campaign, throughout being elected, is the way that I've been met with people across the political spectrum. So I'm the daughter of a very proud Republican father and a very proud Democrat mother. It's an interesting household. But they raised a no party preference socialist daughter. That's me. And there are fewer people in the world that I can talk politics for hours and hours on end and have the most fun than my mother and father. And I think that's reflected in my career now. There's a lot of areas where my colleagues and I do not always see eye to eye. If you don't know, we do have a 4-3 conservative majority on the city council right now. But as long as we're able to communicate with each other as openly as possible and as respectfully as possible, we can make a lot more traction in our activism. So I think as long as we're pushing for that as a community, we're gonna be able to fight this quite a bit. So I'm looking forward to that. That's all.
All right. So I have the distinct pleasure of introducing one of my really good friends. We served together on the Butte County Board of Supervisors. I adore this woman. I don't know if many of you know that she fosters babies in her spare time. That is amazing. Let's give her a hand just for that, right? Like she doesn't have enough to do. I just got to take on an infant. Yeah. So, but her and I went to supervisor school, if you will, together, as did Heidi. I think we were all in the same class. 2018? Was that your first? No? Yeah, I think you were in our first. Yes. Anyway, Tammy's an amazing individual, and she's in a difficult situation. It's a 4-1 board. So please give her a really warm welcome, okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you. I am very honored to be here with all of these incredible women tonight, particularly my colleague Deborah, who I have missed terribly. So those of you who got to witness Deborah as a Board of Supervisors, she's like my mentor. She is the politician we all want to be. She's so smart. She remembers everything. She does more research than anyone. So I'm always honored to be anywhere that she is. There's a lot of questions about what's going to happen with the federal budget and how is it going to impact us on the state level and then from the state level and the local level. As many of you know, Butte County is an arm of the state of California. So when state funding is cut, county funding is cut. We know already with the federal budget that we are going to see a reduction with Health and Human Services of 26%. That is ridiculous. That is, I don't even know how we're going to manage it. So everyone has questions of what programs are going to go, what programs are going to stay. We don't know. We won't know until we know more specifics about exactly what is being cut. Programs that I consider crucial and essential and life-saving do not carry the same weight on the federal level from people who have no idea how those programs work. The good news is that on the county level, we have done a really, really good job of paring down our programs as much as we can and putting into place as many safeguards as we can. And I think it's really easy to get down on the city or to get down on the county or to be negative about government in general, right? I'm from the government, you can trust me. But there is a lot of good work that is being done, and so it is really important to make sure that you are not just buying into the narrative of everything that's happening is negative. In the last 2 years, Butte County Behavioral Health specifically, we have opened Everhart Village. We have, give it up for Everhart Village. We opened a 24/7 sobering center. We opened a 24/7 mobile crisis unit. We opened 2 board and care facilities, which previously we had no behavioral health board and cares. And that's just a huge, it's really the direction we're going to see things going. And so that's a huge step. We opened 3 No Place Like Home apartment complexes, a psychiatric residency program, a care court team, a COPE peer team, a rest homeless team, and now we're opening a 40-bed mental health rehabilitation center. Yeah. We're also working on implementing a 50-bed FIST, which is a felony incompetent to stand trial program. And these kinds of programs you don't see this kind of density in any other community. Butte County is really doing an incredible job. And so we're well positioned, or as well positioned as we can possibly be for what's coming down the pike. And I want to relay just a little bit of my negativity for a second, if I can. So after the election, I was really upset. As probably some of you can relate to that, right? And there were some meetings, some community meetings that were happening, and a friend called me who I hadn't talked to since before the election, and he said, "Aren't you so inspired? Aren't you so excited about this?" And I was like, "No, I am so pissed off." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "Because where were all of these people in October? Where were they?" Right? So I'm going to drop some unhappy truths on us for a second. So we always say, right, Butte County, we're the blue island in a red sea, right? No, we're not. No, we're not. Now we're a red city in a red county. Butte County is completely red now. We are not purple. Chico is not even blue. Yeah, as of May, the last numbers in May, the County of Butte is down 259 Dems. The City of Chico is down 119 Dems. Every single city council district and every Board of Supervisors district, we have seen a decrease in Dem enrollment. So what does that tell me? That tells me that a lot of people do not think the same way that I think, right? I mean, I surround myself with you, so I'm living a little bit in a bubble. And, you know, we're kind of screaming into the echo chamber. And so this may sound really negative, but I'm going to go there anyway. We need to be talking to the people who are not voting. And I will quote my dear friend Doug over here. We need to engage the unengaged, right? Doug Keister, everybody. We have to be focusing on winnable races. I know we are never supposed to leave any race blank, right? We're never supposed to have a race where we don't put a Democrat up. And that's great and fine. But we need to be putting our energy into the winnable races. And if in Chico, if every registered Democrat came out, we could take back supervisorial districts. We could. But there are thousands of registered Democrats who do not vote, right? And those aren't the people who are sitting here tonight. So find out who they are, right? That's public record. You can go on, you can get the voter rolls, you can see which of your neighbors have not voted, right? We can keep going to their houses and saying, please vote, it's so important. 77 votes. And I would have had my colleague next to me. Right? City council, we've had city council races that were won by 44 votes. So it's not you who I'm upset with, right? You're here. You clearly vote. It's the people who aren't voting. And those are the people we have to be focusing on. You know, it's not, and you know, to be fair, it's also not the young under 39 that are not voting. It's the registered voters that look like you and me that are not voting, right? Because they are high propensity voters, but they're not voting down ballot, right? They'll vote in a presidential election and they'll vote for the president, but they do not vote down ballot. And it is so critical that we educate people on how to vote down ballot, on who our candidates are, and that we are not waiting until an election year. So thank you, indivisible people. We need to be doing this now. We need to be building our bench right now while we have energy, while we have momentum, while we have people who are willing to serve, because that's the other thing. Once you get people into office, that might be it. They might be a one term and they are done, right? This is not for sissies. So we need to be building that bench right now, and we need to be reaching out. Gail said reach out to 10 people. We need to be doing targeted, you know, information to those neighbors that we know are registered but are not voting, or they are only voting for the president or only voting for, you know, a congressperson. These are the winnable races, and these are the races where we can make the biggest difference, right? We can get people onto city council, we can get people onto school board who are going to protect our kids, who are going to protect our streets, who are going to make sure that the things we want to see are in place. So I'm just going to encourage all of you, educate yourselves on what are the winnable races and get involved. And even if that getting involved means finding 5 people on the voter rolls who haven't gone out and voted, you're doing something that is going to have huge results. So that's all I got.
So Heidi Hall is running in Congressional District 3 against Kevin Kiley. And you may remember her because she actually ran against this guy several years ago. So that's why she may look familiar to you. She is a problem solver who has spent more than 3 decades in public service, working with others to forge solutions that protect our land and water, improve health, and build opportunities for others. She and I started out, even if she doesn't remember, in the class of 2018 for elected supervisors. I've always been impressed with her straightforward approach and gumption to get things done. She's on a tight time schedule tonight. It takes a lot of energy and work, and you have to be in 15,000 places at once to run for Congress. So she's going to take. So without further ado, Heidi, please come up.
Good evening, Indivisible. How are you tonight? Yes, good to see you. So good to see you. Thank you for having me. I'm honored also to be on this stage with some of these great local politicians. They're politicians, they're public servants, they're doing good work for all of you. They need your help. Let's give them another great hand. And I am indeed running in CD3 against Kevin Kiley and the toxic politics in Washington, D.C. Thank you. This is my seat. This is a flippable seat. It's one of the top 3 flippable seats in California, and it's one of our best chances to take back the House in 2026. Do it. But I'm not here to talk about my campaign tonight, so if you want to know more or you want to help, you can go to HeidiHall.com and do all that stuff there. All right? So I am here. Why am I here tonight? I'm here because that guy is not. Right? Where is he? Where's your congressman? Any idea? Maybe he's out making sure that the Veterans Administration is not cutting staff. Is he out there protecting the Veterans Administration? No? Wow. Maybe he's out there protecting federal grants. No? Grants that are paving your roads, building your bridges, supporting your health and human services? No? You don't think he's doing that? Shame on him. Right? Shame on him. That's his job. His job is to bring resources here to protect you, to make things work for you, to help the federal agencies function properly. That is his job. Where is he? Why isn't he doing his job? I'm mad about that. You guys, I can tell, you're mad about that too, right? We deserve better. What happens when a congressperson doesn't ever show up for a town hall or take your questions? What is he telling you? He doesn't care. You don't matter. Your opinion doesn't matter. Your voice doesn't matter. He's in it for the grift like everyone else in the cult in D.C. right now. And that is shameful. Maybe he's saving it all up to protect Medicaid. What do you think? No? To protect you and your health and the health of your elders and your children and your newborns. You think he's doing that? I know he's not doing that. Shame on him. Shame on him. So I just got a couple of briefings recently from the California Association of Counties and the National Association of Counties, both of which I do some work on. And the briefings we got were dire. I also just got to hear this morning, a great privilege to hear our great Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren talk about what's going on. She's fabulous. She's investing in California and flipping this House. And she says, too, it is dire. We're just seeing the tip of the iceberg. What happens when this big, ugly bill that the House just passed, if the Senate passes it, what's going to happen to us, to Medicaid? Let's just take one thing, Medicaid. What's going to happen? The people will die. The Medicaid dollars that come down to California that will be cut will equal $10 billion annually. Billion with a B every year. $10 billion less money coming to California which then goes to the counties who add some money and then goes to pay for Medicaid patients. What do you think is going to happen? 100 to 200 million people are going to be dropped from Medicaid in California. I mean, these are big numbers. It's hard to even conceptualize what that means, right? But we know what that means on the ground. What does that mean on the ground when that many people are dropped from Medicaid? When you can't get health through your regular health care system that you're used to, and you don't have insurance and you don't have a way to pay for anything, and you're sick, or you're going to get sick, or you're almost sick, where do you end up? Emergency rooms. And what happens when emergency rooms are overwhelmed in rural hospitals, which are barely surviving on a string, right? Everyone's going to be overwhelmed. People who aren't that sick won't get help. People who are very sick won't get help. People are going to die. Our hospitals, some of them are going to have to close. Our clinics, some of them are going to have to close. Our facilities that help our elders deal with their diseases and how they pass, those are going to have to close. This is not funny game stuff. This is not what our elected representatives in DC are supposed to be doing. This is not what we elected them to do. Am I right? Yes. Is this shameful? This is shameful. It is shameful. And we need to keep calling it out every single day, every way. I know groups like you are writing, right? You're writing your congressman, even if he doesn't answer. That clown. You're calling him. You're asking him to come here and show up and answer your questions. I know you're doing what you can. You're protesting, you're writing cards. You have to keep doing that. I know we get tired. I know how angry we are. But you have to keep doing that. And we have to flip the House in 2026. We have to do it. So it's hard to think that far ahead, and I'm finding something I want to read to you. It's hard to think that far ahead. And so we have to keep doing the everyday that we do as well, right? We're living in this strange, bizarre, changing new world, and we continue to have to get up, take our kids to school, and make breakfast, and plan our next vacation, and find some joy. How odd is that? There's a word for that. It's called hyper-normalization. Did any of you, I came across an article in The Guardian just last week or this week entitled, "Systems Are Crumbling, But Daily Life Continues. The Dissonance is Real," by Adrian Mattei. Any of you run across that? Okay, I'm going to talk about that just for a minute. Hypernormalization is a word that was coined by a brilliant Russian historian who was writing about what it was like to live in the last years of the Soviet Union. What he said, which I thought was absolutely fascinating, this is a different article now talking about the word, was that in the 80s, everyone from the top to the bottom of Soviet society knew that it wasn't working, knew that it was corrupt, knew that the bosses were looting the system, knew that the politicians had no alternative vision. And they knew that the bosses knew that they knew that. Everyone knew it was fake, but because no one had any alternative vision for a different kind of society, they just accepted this sense of total fakeness as normal. And this historian, Alexei Yurchak, coined the phrase hypernormalization to describe that feeling. I thought that's a brilliant title because although we are not in any way really like the Soviet Union, there is a similar feeling in our present day. Everyone in my country and in America throughout Europe knows that the system that they are living under isn't working as it is supposed to, that there is a lot of corruption at the top. But whenever the journalists point it out, everyone goes, wow, that's terrible, and then nothing happens and the system remains the same. So I read that because It's a way to describe what we're feeling, right? But in this article, Adrienne Mattei says, but there's a way to get out of that. First of all, we have to acknowledge that. It's awful, it's horrible, it's horrific, and we wake up in despair. And then we go do our grocery shopping and see somebody in the aisle we know and they say something funny and we laugh and then we say, oh my God, I'm laughing, I'm buying groceries, I have to plan a vacation, the kids are gonna be out of school soon. We're trying to live this everyday life and living with this despair and anger and sadness. And I think it's really important to just acknowledge that. Together, we're all doing it together. And there's an antidote to that, which is also the hopeful part about getting to action to change. So Adrienne argues that the antidote to this is actually to say, I have to get political. In everything. Everything is political. I cannot deny it. I have to take action. I have to get up and write a postcard. I have to call my Congress member. I have to protest. You find your lane. You find the thing that you feel comfortable doing. You don't have to do it all, and you don't have to do it every day, but you have to commit to doing something. And part of the beauty of that is you show up like you did today. And what are you doing? You're taking an action that's important, but you're also finding all your new people, aren't you? Right? Some of these people might be new as we get political and find people who've never been political before and start showing up. You're going to find other people who are doing the same thing, who are saying, to hell with it. I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to insist. I'm going to persist. I'm going to resist. I'm not going to stop. And I'm going to do it with these people right next to me who feel just as excited and angry and hopeful and determined to make change. So I want to thank you all for doing what you're doing, to tell you that it has never, never in our lifetimes been more important to do this work, to not give up. Harvard professor Erica Chenoweth argues that just 3.5% of a population engaging in peaceful protest can hold back authoritarian movements. This is where we're going, people. And she says, we are in a period now when it is absolutely essential to protest. There you go. That's what we have to do. And if we do that, if you keep protesting and showing up and finding your good people to hang out with, and people like these keep protecting you the best they can in their elected positions, and people like me keep running and trying to flip that house, we will flip the house. We will stop this authoritarian movement. We will push back on this nonsense, and we will rebuild our democracy. Thank you all so much for what you're doing. Thank you.
All right, now you know why she's running for Congress. Yes, huh? All right. And I am going to be so happy when I can say you are our next Congresswoman, right here from the North State, out of our own ranks. Awesome. Thank you. All right, so we promised that she would answer a couple of questions. We have a hard stop at 7 o'clock, so we are going to not be able to take a lot of questions here, but hopefully I will get this right, on Sunday, June 1st, there is a meeting at the Women's Club. Please bring your questions there. We will spend time answering the questions. Katie? Am I doing these questions for her?
You can read those questions, or do other people have questions?
Okay. I'm gonna take this one because, and then hopefully I'll take one from the audience. Okay. Does anyone know about some deal that La Malfa just made with Trump about the water in the Sacramento River watershed and the Sacramento Valley? Aqua Alliance is our only hope to prevent this unholy alliance. And this is a good woman to ask. Nope. Nope, she doesn't know what he's doing.
He's up to something no good, I'm sure of that.
Yes. Okay. And I'm going to take this gentleman right here with the glasses. Yes.
Website and see who's donated. What do you think of approaching businesses that have supported a lawful or your opponent and saying, we really don't want to do business with you? Do you think that's appropriate?
Did everyone?
It sounds like he's asking my opinion. You're asking my opinion. Tell me if I get this right. That folks should go look at who donated to the folks we don't want in Congress and find out who their businesses are and boycott them. Is that what you're saying? You know, you all should do what you think you need to do. This is a people's movement, right? I will say that, you know, data shows that boycotts are most effective when they're consistent over time and organized. So just think about how much time you have and energy you have. But that's, you know, we're in a new and different time. So people need to do whatever they think is going to be effective.
All right. I'm going to take another one from here. Can you take one more? Yes. Okay. After the catastrophic fire in LA in January, the president ordered the North State Water released to help solve the problem. What is your stance on this solution?
You know the answer to that. That was utter crapola nonsense. Excuse my language. Right? No, obviously that was a horrific thing to do. It was wasteful. It hurt people who were depending on that water. It engendered additional distrust of the government. It showed that the people who listened to him either didn't know what was going on or were in fear for their jobs and their livelihood. I mean, what's going on today is not normal. It is not normal to release water like that, to have a president come down and involve himself in a local issue that he knows squat about is not normal, and we need to push back on that as well.
Okay, we're going to take one more from the audience right here.
Thank you. So with all the big, beautiful bill looking to decimate things like Medicaid, Medicare, VA benefits, I don't know. Why are these programs and items that have been approved by the Congress? Dougie is in the Congress. He's voted against all of this stuff by approving that big, beautiful bill. What's next?
Well, thank you for your service, first of all, and I am sorry that what's happening at the Veterans Administration is hurting so many of you. Yeah. You know, what's happening is, in many cases, illegal and unconstitutional. And, right, and a lot of those congressmen and women who are going along with this know better. They know better. If they're lawyers, there are a lot of lawyers in Congress. They know that this is wrong, right? Congress has given away its power to levy tariffs. It's given away its power to investigate and oversee what they're doing at these federal agencies, which is illegal. There is a light still in this tunnel or over this hill or whatever the analogy is, that the courts so far are for the most part holding firm. Just coming in here today, another court overturned 2 of his tariffs. So the courts, yeah, yay, courts. Let's support our judges as well. Let's send them thank you letters when they're doing the right thing, because they are being attacked and threatened. Their lives are being threatened But our courts are holding up. And let me tell you, from what I am hearing, from some of the conversations I've been privy to, when we take back the House and the Senate and the executive, we are doing investigations, and we're going to hold people accountable for the grift. And I promise you, I will be part of that. We cannot keep letting this stuff go on. Thank you for the question. So thank you again. I'm going to leave you to these other lovely women here who have lots of, I think, are going to have great answers to a lot of great questions. Thank you so much.
The gentleman in the back there. Do you have a mic? Somebody's going to give you a mic. Well, just a second.
Pretty strong. Would you turn him around so I don't have to look at anything?
Okay, we've got another question right here, please.
So we're talking a lot often about the next election, and so whenever that comes up, I have this little monkey on my shoulder about not whether that's going to happen, but how it's going to look. And so I'm really wondering what people know about what is being done while all this other chaos goes on, and we know their playbook is to look over here and then something else is happening that they're unraveling. What is what is the state doing? What does Butte County do? What do we do here? I've worked, in an election too, but what do we do? Just up in Shasta County, and I don't mean to go on, but they're having a terrible situation with a new director of voters there. So registrar of voters. So I just wonder what are the Democrats doing? What is happening? What are we aware of? Who's working on it? And I don't. Yeah.
I'm just going to say one thing, and then do you want to take something on that? Okay. So one thing that I think is very interesting, I'm just going to tell a little personal story here on, voter suppression. And basically denying a lot of women the ability to vote, especially if you've been married. What if you're Catholic, okay, and you have a name that was given to you by the church, as my cousin does, and she just spent like several $100s to get her name changed. It took 3 months. For me, I had a Delta Airlines, the air miles, and I just wanted to get it in my name, Lucero. That's my maiden name. And it was in my married name because I haven't taken Delta in 25 years. And so anyway, and I had a lot of miles. And they said, well, if you bring us your divorce papers, and then we can, you can get your miles back. And I thought, that's just for the miles on Delta. What is it going to be like to vote? So this is a very serious situation.
Yeah, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of issues specifically around identification. And I want to remind people that your voting registrar position is an elected position, right? There are a lot of positions in Butte County that we have just kind of handed over. And that is one of them. And so if you, like me, were irritated at our last election night that the results did not even start to show up locally until 9:30 p.m. was our first posting, I called the sheriff to say, hey, do we have something going on in Oroville? Has the office been attacked? Right? We've never seen returns that late. And there was no outcry from the public. Nothing. No one seemed to think it was a problem. I thought it was a huge problem. But nobody said anything. Those are elected positions. certainly there's someone in this room that could do better. Right? Run!
And then also on that note, if it goes through that we can no longer mail ballots, we don't have the help at the local level to even process the number of votes. It will be absolute chaos. It's going to cost so much for cities. I'm sure, City of Chico, for the county. It's incredibly expensive. So the vote by mail is just, if that's eliminated, that's just nuts. Okay, let's start here, okay?
I'll give it back. I just wanted to thank all of you who have hair this color that are here as well. I'm so glad to see so many young people that we have, but I'm glad we're still showing up. I've been showing up for 6 decades. So the only thing I wanted to talk about is the thing in that bill that really took me by surprise, because we're winning in the courts. However, there's a provision in there that denies any federal money going to enforce court orders for contempt, and specifically. So we know what that's written for, but it means we fight this fight, we win these battles, and if that bill passes, which, that's got to be illegal as well, but we know how fast our legal system has. And I just really think, if you haven't called them off on that one, or whoever else you call, I made 4 calls to him last night, but I think that one's really, really important.
Good point. That's a great point. Okay, there we go.
Yes, I noticed that the gentleman we're referring to is double dipping. He is a member of the agricultural, and his family is taking in $5.5 million. Last year, he personally benefited $1.7 million into his bank account, according to what's going on. He's as dirty as Trump, or dirtier, and I don't know why it isn't put out more, the fact that he is on the committees, that he is parcel of putting his own money out to the public for us to pay for. I think that's pretty crummy.
When you have at the highest levels of government what's happening right now with our president putting his own image on a coin and a meme and selling dinners for $500,000, or, it's never happened like this before. Okay, I'm going to go to the back. The woman standing up, right? There we go.
Well, I'm a nurse, and I'm pissed, but I also have hope, because nurses don't stand around. We take action, okay? You don't save patients by standing in the hallway. You save it by being at the bedside. We know that there are national and statewide nursing unions. That's thousands of us. Even in this Chico town, that's thousands of us. We need to activate and get to every single nurse and say, hell no. We need to stand up and say, you need to advocate for your patients. You need to advocate for Medicaid, Medicare, and veterans, every single one. Children, for public health nurses, school nurses. Get to every single one of those. That's our 44 votes. That's our 177 votes. They don't know because they're working 12-hour shifts and are exhausted. We've got to get to them. We can do it. Stand up and fight.
Yes, and Indivisible and Resisters should get that lady's name and sign them up. Sign them up. Okay.
Old Elementary School in the multi-purpose room. And then we have a board workshop that is held at the large conference room in the district office. Board meetings are on, I believe, the first, I should know this, right? I just look at my calendar and go where it tells me to go. The first and the third Wednesday. So the first Wednesday is the regular board meeting, and the third Wednesday is the special board meeting that's at the district office.
Chico City Council meetings are the first and third Tuesday, starting at 5 p.m. closed session. Oh yeah, 6 p.m. open session. 5 p.m. for me. And then I'm also on the Vina Groundwater Sustainability Agency, which is making very important decisions about our groundwater use. If you care about our environment and our groundwater dependent ecosystems, that is the third Wednesday of every month, starting at 6.
The Butte County Board of Supervisors meets the second and fourth Tuesdays at 9 a.m. at 25 County Center Drive in Orville, or you can tune in online.
All right, we're going to try to get your question in. Okay. Can you hear me? No.
Okay, you can hear me now. Okay, this is to Doug. Doug, you're right where you should be. By the way, your staff member Luke lied to me after 2 weeks, told me he was going to call me back and give me some stats that I'd requested, and failed to tell me that one of the days he said he'd call back was his last day as an intern. Okay, here's my real question. My son, who has cerebral palsy, uses a motorized wheelchair and talks through the same computer as Stephen Hawking. His survival depends on Medicaid in 3 ways. 1, his direct health care. 2, 283 hours of in-home support services, which is a Medicaid program. 3, all of the rest of his direct support to shower, dress, eat, etc., fly around the country, give speeches, all of that comes as a home and community-based waiver from Medicaid. Your district, Doug, is one of the poorest in the state. Over 40% of your constituents use Medi-Cal, Medicaid. Why don't you want to serve more than rich rice farmers and millionaires in your district? Why won't you represent me, my son, and my ex-husband, all of whom use Medicare, which you snuck in a $500 billion cut in Medicare in the last minutes before they passed the bill? Trinity County has one hospital that's 5 beds. 16 miles from my ex-husband will probably close, and a lot of other rural hospitals. Thank you, Doug. We really appreciate it.
Boo. Okay. I'm going to take the lady in the blue back there. Okay. Sorry. The young man. If you want to come up.
So this is something that I'm not too sure of. It's kind of hard to know with the news cycle what is true and what isn't true. But I've heard about elected officials, city council members in Louisiana being imprisoned without due process, as well as judges around the country. I'm interested in what you all as progressive elected officials are planning to do to protect yourselves against kind of this wave of imprisonment without due process. It seems concerning to me.
Okay, well, I'm so glad to have a question. That has been concerning me as well. I think something that people don't talk enough about is one of the first demographics that was put into concentration camps, essentially, in 1940s Germany, were progressives. That was one of the first. I think it's important not to fall into the slippery slope fallacy of just because we're seeing some trends, we're going to see something that's full-blown fascism. But there are indicators when due process is not being taken seriously by the federal government, state governments, and sometimes, local governments. At this point, living in California, it's not a concern of mine, but it does make me want to stand up for local elected officials in other states and other municipalities. I think, federal politics and local politics are always going to be conjoined at some level. I just think that at this point, there's no reason for us to be worrying in Butte County, and I don't want to sound any alarms too early.
All right, you guys, we're getting the boot. We're getting the boot. So please, thank you for coming. It was a real pleasure to see you all. Thank you for being engaged.